black people are being attacked. If they told you not to worry about DEI and it won't affect us, and if 400,000 black women lost their jobs afterwards, what do you think is going to happen with your voting rights? This is for educational and entertainment purposes only. The disclaimer is down in the description box. Hello, and welcome to the Think Tank, where we use critical thinking, deductive reasoning, and just a pinch of common sense to discuss, to come up with solutions, to work together, to figure out what's going on in this insane time that we're living in, where the country is more divided than in any time in history up until and possibly during, arguably, the Civil War. I'm here today once again to discuss the current occurrences with the Honorable Dion Powell. Today we're going to discuss the Voters' Rights Act that was formed in 1965. Before we get into it, allow me to let my compadre, my co-host, my friend, talk about it with us, the Honorable Dion Powell.
My friend. Hopefully I don't get canceled for that. But I won't, because we're under Trump 2.0. I'm District Leader Dion Powell here out of the Bronx, New York. And I'm here to say that we're going to MAGA this episode as much as we can for you people with facts and put the feelings over there somewhere. I'm a consultant, community leader, and as you can see, I have another stylish pair of glasses on. Yes. Black man can see the point, and hopefully you will too.
As Dion attempts to MAGA the episode, he's right. The facts will be levied, so fear not, I'm here. So let's talk about the Voters' Rights Act. Do you know what the Voters' Rights Act is?
The Voting Rights Act, yes.
Voting Rights Act of 1965. Voting Rights Act of 1965, correct.
You see, we can't let all the passion get ahead of ourselves. Yes, go ahead, Leo. It's being gutted, destroyed. No matter how many other black influencers and black elites yell at the top of their lungs, I told y'all. Here we are, my friend. And go see back to you, Leo, because I know what I want to say.
I'm excited to hear. I'm kind of disturbed to see a black man so excited about the rights of voters, black voters in particular, who are protected by this act, be so happy to see it being struck down. But I mean, listen, we already lost affirmative action. We already lost DEI. All of the stuff that we had our most powerful black leaders of the last 10 generations. I can't say that because it was Marcus Garvey. But okay, so of my parents' generation, the 60s, the civil rights era, Martin Luther King, Malcolm X, the Black Panthers, all of these people who fought, died, got in prison, had their entire lives destroyed, all of the things that they fought for being stripped away in a 5-year span is, I don't have words for it. Deplorable does not cover how awful this is. But let's hear what Dion has to say. Dion?
Well, because we don't want to give other people plugs and promos on his platform, I would like to say this. Certain black conservative YouTubers and other influencers have said the following, that the Civil Rights Act, like I've said on this show before, has an expiration date for a reason, in which it was designed excuse me, for us to be in a world one day where racism no longer exists and us as black people would have any impediments to voting. And so far, that kind of happened. However, the Civil Rights Act has been used and abused for other boxes and demographics and issues that have nothing to do with the black cause, like Leo kind of alluded to earlier. So now it's like, you know what? We don't need this anymore. And now that it's not there, you can't say that you have a civil right to do certain things that's not for the black cause, if you think about it. So I'll just leave that there with a painted with a broad brush, Leo. Make sense?
No. If you want me to be honest, no, it does not make any sense whatsoever. So let's unpack a little bit.
You want me to give you an example?
Sure.
All right. I don't have a civil right as a 5'4" person that identifies as a short something or other to do something. Get it? So all those civil rights are out the window. Poof. Back to you, Skip.
Right. Well, Black people have historically suffered at the hands of this country. What's happened is this country was built on the backs of low income or slave wage. The reason this country was able to become powerful and rich was by exploiting Black people, making us work quite often as slaves did for nothing or for the slop that was given to us and beaten to death sometimes if we didn't want to work. This is the history of the country. This is how the country was built. And that was the case from the inception of the country into deep into the 60s, where the vast majority of this country's existence was built on keeping Black people down. That's just what it is. That is historically true. I know that the MAGA party wants to change facts. They want to go into the Smithsonian and pretend like slavery didn't happen. They want to pretend like there wasn't systemic issues that have occurred in this country toward Blacks since the inception of this country. But these issues happen. They're real. They're not a figment of some imagination. And so Blacks fought more and more so Blacks can have rights. And the country made big movements toward ending systemic racism and the policies that allow systemic racism to flourish. Now, I use a lot of big words here. So we as Black people did everything we could to stop all of the stuff that was happening that made it so that we couldn't succeed in this country. That's what I just said. That's what we did during the civil rights era in the 1960s. That's what Martin Luther King and Malcolm X and everybody fought for.
Let's bring it back home, Leo. Voting rights.
No. So
I deviated.
I did not deviate. I am establishing the base for what these laws are for. I understand. Oh my God, he's talking about history. We can't talk about history. No, don't bring up history. No facts, no history. No,
sensationalism.
So you have to understand where we came from to understand where we're at. And so that's the history. That's how we got to the point in the 60s where we fought for the laws that were put in place to help Black people begin to end all of the things that were happening. It's called systemic racism. I know these are where you got. Don't talk about systemic racism. No, it's gone. It's vanished. There's no such thing. That's in the past. You think that racism that has been built in this country for centuries disappeared in 70 years, in one generation. And the reason you believe that, and you're able to believe that, is because you don't want to look at history. You don't want to look at facts. You want to believe whatever Trump says. You want to believe whatever this manufactured archetype of.
The fact is, as a Black man in America, I have no issue voting. However,
the fact is, the reason you have no issue voting is because the Voting Rights Act has protected the Black vote since the 60s. But here's what happened recently.
What happened recently, Leo?
What happened recently is they are trying to redraw the maps. They call it redistricting. In the 60s, they called it gerrymandering.
Keep going.
They're trying to draw the maps in a way to count out Black votes. And the courts have said, you can't do that.
Because of the
So
Voting Rights Act is the one that actually designed that. But then they realized, they being the United States government administration in power that was elected at the time, which is Donald Trump's administration, that, hey, wait a minute, we don't need this anymore, because in actuality, it just did what it was opposed to, which was based on race, based lines to be drawn based on race. That is racist and prejudice to prejudge and predetermine. So you have
that's
Supreme
not
Court.
prejudice at all. What are you talking about? You're just saying big words because you
Word
think they
salad,
sound
word
smart.
salad. Kamala Harris. Long story short, the Voting Rights Act created what they thought would be areas of Black representation in Congress, meaning that we're going to have voting rights, but we're going to strategically draw the lines where there's lots of Black population to vote for their own representation in Congress. Make sense? So they have
Wait,
access to the
stop
voting,
right there. So
but
the
it
lines
turned
were
out to
drawn
be,
to give black people a voice. That's what you just said, right?
huh?
And
Yes.
you said and now what we're saying is they're redrawing the lines to take away that black voice, and the court said you can't do that because of the Voting Registration Act, right? That's where we're
Let me
at, right?
finish. No, 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 no. The
No, no,
line
but that's where we're at this
is
point. I just want to bring the points that you said. That's what you just said at this moment, and then you're going to continue from there, right?
okay.
Okay.
Let's keep going. So now they're saying, hey, you know what? This is not fair, because we want a system where we don't base anything on race. So that's why they're getting rid of this. And then on top of that, people are realizing that the Democratic Party actually exploited the Voting Rights Act and made it a multi-billion dollar historical business, and that Black people can still vote for Black people and elect Black people with other cultures as well, if need be. And you don't need to have lines to draw on to actually benefit a political party, the Democratic Party. So you see, it's not bipartisan anymore. Thank you. That's my point.
So what actually happened was Trump was trying to redraw the lines to count out black districts in places where we have 40% of the population. We only have like less than a third of representation already, right now, North Carolina, for instance. So, what the Voters' Rights Act was supposed to do was help protect those blocks of black people so that we had some representation. Trump's team has decided to attack the Voters' Rights Act by give me 5 seats. Like, for instance, he called Governor Newsom of Texas, not Governor Newsom of Texas, Governor Abbott of Texas, and was like, yo, I need 5 congressional seats. Redraw the maps illegally, because you're not supposed to redraw the maps in the middle of a decade for some reason. That's just what it is. It's called mid-decade redistricting or some nonsense like that. It means the middle of a decade, like it's 2025, it's the middle of the decade, you ain't supposed to redraw maps. But do it anyway. And so wars began where they're attacking black voting areas against the Voters' Rights Act. And the courts are like, you can't do that. What are you doing? This is illegal. We have what is called Section 2 of the Voters' Rights Act that protects areas that are black, so that you can't do that, bro. You wild and stop it.
But guess what?
And in response, Trump's team, the Supreme Court, was like, yo, so let's look at the Voters' Rights Act and maybe take that away so that after it's gone, they can just start drawing lines so that black people can get less representation. And that is where it began. It didn't begin with ending racism or the fact they thought racism was over. That's not where it began. Where it began was they were trying to redraw the map so Trump could stay in power. And this is part of that play.
Okay.
Now, you want to say something?
So I think I said this on these episodes before, when I said the reason why civics is so important above economics is because the most powerful tool the man has is the ability to create and change the rules. You see what they did with Roe v. Wade. Remember that from social studies and high school history classes? So now the same thing. They're just changing the rules, because we no longer have Jim Crow, because the Voting Rights Act was designed to do what? Stop and prevent Jim Crow. So just like Roe v. Wade, the Supreme Court now has decided, you know what? We're going to make sure we don't really need this anymore. So now here we are. But I want to make, if I can, like I said, maybe another episode, Clarence Thomas, the black man replaced Thurgood Marshall, the second black man on the Supreme Court. He is going to be demonized. But unfortunately, thanks to the mass information age, the first black woman purported on the Supreme Court, Ketanji Jackson, she is making herself look quite silly because Leo, we should also inform the public that in her statements that she equates the black voter to being disabled. Isn't that interesting? Did you read those statements that she made or hear that in the media? Did they talk about that?
So let's define disabled. Disabled is the inability to do something for yourself. And based on systemic racism, the fact that, oh my God, no, he's using words in history. God, no, not history,
Systemic
not words,
racism.
not words. Please don't use words. Please.
Program black people to hate.
Systemic racism is hate? Like, history is hate. People. History is hate. So talking about history is hate. That's what you're saying is, as a MAGA man, talking about history is hate. So we're not supposed to look at facts. I got it. But no, we're going to talk about
saying
facts.
These buzzwords are used to trigger a reaction to get
it's
black
people. It's not a trigger word. It's what it is. It's a fact. Systemic racism is a fact. It's not like right now. Let's like right now. What's going on right now? Right now. The unemployment rate right now in this country is what? 5.5 for 5% for people in unemployment rate. Hold up. Let's say stats for blacks is the unemployment rate is 7.5 for blacks in August, but they're not reporting that right now. Remember that. So right now, the unemployment rate for blacks is 7.5. Right? Well, that's as of August. Meanwhile, for the rest of the country, it's only 4.3. So we're almost double unemployment as our white counterparts. We're almost unemployment rate. Just one stat, just one. We have twice as much problems finding a job as white people. That is the definition of systemic racism. So we're not talking about something that's deep in history. We're not using big words to try and trigger emotional reactions. We're stating facts. We're not even dealing in history. These are the facts of what's going on right now. Just, that's what's happening. So
why we
can I use systemic racism now?
Go ahead, use systemic racism comparing to the Voting Rights Act, which we don't need anymore, but had
systemic racism is currently a okay. Go ahead.
Remember again, Leo. Back to one of the key points here about what you want: critical thinking and a pinch of common sense. Common sense would tell you the Voting Rights Act had an expiration date for.
When is that date? You keep bringing that up. When is that date? Oh, we haven't reached it yet? So then why are they voting it down if we haven't reached the date? You keep saying that.
We haven't reached the expiration date. Remember? I think that was under Biden's administration when it expired and they expanded it. They made a whole PR marketing campaign over it. Long story short, family, the Supreme Court, once again, is conservative now. So we got representative justices to retire and or die to put some liberal progressives like Supreme Court Justice Ketanji Jackson to make some statements that black people are disabled. So when it comes to voting rights,
well, let's correct you because facts matter. The Voting Rights Act of 1965, VRA, does not have a single overall expiration date. Many of its core provisions are permanent. Some special or temporary enforcement provisions did have expiration dates and required reauthorization by Congress. But the Voting Rights Act does not have an expiration date. It's not true. So there. Now, the reason the Voting Rights Act doesn't have an expiration date is because they knew that systemic racism wasn't going to end in a generation or two, that this is going to be a long, hard-fought battle, and people like Trump would come along, and we would have to have something to back us up when he came, and that is the law protecting us, which is, in this particular case for voting the Voters' Rights Act, the second section, which is what the Supreme Court is trying to destroy as we speak. If there was an expiration date, they wouldn't have to wait for that. They wouldn't have to wait for it to be destroyed. They wouldn't have to wait for it. They wouldn't have to destroy it. They could just wait for it to expire. The reason that he's doing it right now is because he knows that his policies are so unpopular that he has no chance of getting in unless he does some things that are against the law. So he's changing the law, as you pointed out, the power he has to change the law, and that's what he's doing. We should be very alarmed that since he knows he can't win, he's changing the rules to try and win. And that's what he's doing. That's what this is. It's an attack on our civil rights, Mr. Civil Guy, so that we can protect ourselves because we are being attacked as Black people. And your chance to rebuttal.
Well, I will say this, Black America, I'm speaking to you. If you have any issues voting, I don't want to say it at this point in time in the country, but the issue with voting that needs to be reformed, maybe when it comes to, having a felony, because they pounce on the president being a felon. But other than that, you don't have to really take a test of your guilt voting. A lot of people are just, like I said, it's a multi-million dollar, billion dollar industry, voting rights. So now there shouldn't be any issues. And that's how I see that.
I understand. So here's the facts. If they strike this down, then all of the things that they've been trying to do to be able to redraw lines so that the Black vote doesn't matter are going to suddenly become legal, and they're going to redraw these lines. And it's not that you've had trouble voting before. It's that if they pass this law, which they're talking about, or if they take this law apart, if they tear this down, or I hear lawyers say claw it down, if they tear apart this law, you're going to have problems in the future. That's what this is. This isn't that you're having problems now. It's that you don't have problems now because it's there. They take it away, and suddenly you're not going to see representation for yourself. That's what this is about. That's why this is so important. This is actually the single biggest thing happening right now to Black people. They've already taken away affirmative action and DEI. If you walk through Washington now and look at people going in federal buildings, there are far less Black people, if any, that you'll see. It's definitely been a huge change. If you go to Washington, you can see it for yourself. And you're going to start seeing it more and more. You've probably seen it in the fact that more people that can't get jobs if you're Black because unemployment is double for Blacks. And I'm sure that the affirmative action and DEI being taken away are a big piece of that. The fact that 400,000 Black women have lost their jobs since Trump has been in office. I'm sure that's just a coincidence, though, right, Dion?
Well, the thing about it is that actually is something else in which federal jobs, government jobs, a lot of Black women have applied for.
We're not talking about government jobs. I said lost their jobs. Government jobs can be added to that, but I'm talking about overall, later for the government jobs. Well, the overall picture.
The overall picture. Again, okay, well, let's take Black women excel and succeed at government jobs. And number two, they excel and succeed at all the DEI created jobs and positions of access.
Whoa, you're changing your tone. Look at you.
I didn't finish. And also at major media outlets in which they see that all these different segments of their media outlets and platforms that were earmarked for Blacks or LGBT or Latinos or women don't make any money. So there you go, under the Trump administration.
So what you're saying is since Trump's been in office, Black women have suddenly become incompetent at doing their jobs, and that since Trump's been in office, all of a sudden these major conglomerates. That's what you said.
No,
so then what are you saying? So why are Black women now suddenly being targeted?
Okay. Well, number one, cause and effect. Black women make up a good amount of government jobs. Black women make up a good amount.
Can I finish? Hold on, wait. Are you saying? So why are they being targeted? You didn't ask why they're being. Targeted.
I'm talking about cause and effect, simple logic, qualitative data, the pinch of common sense that I'm trying to build into a pound. In which, again, Black women, based on information, make up a good amount of government jobs. Black women also make up a good amount of DEI jobs, both in the government and in the private sector. Now, under the Trump administration, he wants to do what? Downsize the government. So if you downsize the government, who will be affected proportionally? Black woman. Again, under the Trump administration, he's not with that DEI stuff. It has to go both in the federal government, but the private sector, they had the option to follow suit, and they did because there's no money in it. Because they realized there's no money in it. So once the government got rid of DEI, and it became cool for the government to get rid of DEI, the private sector, which is optional, got rid of it too. And seeing so black people make a great proportion of the DEI directors and programs and access, that's by default.
That's
So that's cause
that
and
is a
effect.
complete lie. That is a
That's
complete
cause
lie.
and effect.
That is a complete lie. Actually, that is a complete lie. It is not. DEI is illegal in the private sector. That's a lie.
No, no,
That's a
no, no,
lie.
no, no. I'm saying that it's
Oh, okay. I
optional.
hear you.
I'm
No,
saying
it's not
DEI
optional.
was
No, it is not
optional.
optional. It is not
In
optional.
the federal government, in the private sector, having a whole wing for DEI. Some of those areas were optional. And they, for example, I think it was NBC that had BLK, Black, Outs, and Hispanic Latino. Some of those areas were optional. Okay.
So before the MAGA said, oh, the lies they spread was, oh, DEI doesn't affect black people. It affects white women. It affects trans people. It affects this person. It affects that people. It doesn't affect black people. Now you're like, oh yeah, well yeah, black people are disproportionately affected by DEI. So when DEI was attacked, they were attacking blacks. They were attacking black women in particular, according to what you just said. And now that's lie, which I covered here first, has been put into plain sight. No mandate, but anti-discrimination laws remain. While not mandatory, all employees within 15 or more employees are legally required to provide working free discrimination based on race, color.
Not mandatory, you say? Did you read that?
That's true.
Optional, my friend.
Okay. Okay.
Because that would be
So
overreach for the government to tell them that because they already had affirmative action. Remember affirmative action history, social studies kids? They struck down the education portion of affirmative action, but the working part of affirmative action still exists. But that was designed for what? Black people. However, certain other
here we go. It didn't help black people. Same thing you said about DEI. Here it comes.
Affirmative action.
Right. Same thing you said about DEI. It doesn't affect black people. And here we are. Oh, well, the reason 400,000 people are out of their jobs because of DEI. So that's the MAGA talking points. They changed to try and fit the circumstance to cover themselves at the present moment. And that's what you just did. Because all the way up until now, it's been DEI doesn't affect black people. Now it's like, oh, well, the reason so many black women are out of work is because DEI was struck down. And that's it. Mm-hmm. So these are the things that are happening. And now we have to worry about our voting rights because it falls under the same umbrella. Black people are being attacked. If they told you not to worry about DEI and it won't affect us, and if 400,000 black women lost their jobs afterwards, what do you think is going to happen with your voting rights? But like I said, this one we're not going to agree on. Dion's not going to change his statement. So MAGA changes their statement. Their statements are not going to change until people start complaining next year because after the Supreme Court strikes down the Voting Rights Act second section, people are going to stop getting representation. There's going to be less black representation, and that's what's about to happen. But MAGA is not going to acknowledge it until they have to.
We are the new house for you. So it's up to you to go get the information and put it out there on your platform and let the world see.
Anyway, if you're enjoying the content, please like, share, subscribe. We definitely need the support. The mainstream media is not really reporting on this. I don't know. I guess you can go and get some bits and pieces from both sides. We come here together. We discuss it. We bring it here for you so that you can hear both sides and make up your own mind. And this one we're not going to agree on, but hopefully you heard enough of both sides to be able to come up with your own opinion and you want to support that. Become part of the critical thinking community. We put our thinking caps on and try to think our way outside of the current state of affairs in this country. Dion, any closing statements?
voting rights, my friend. The Voting Rights Act won't be able to trigger you much longer. And that's what I'm going to end with.
Yes. Ending with the appeal of losing more rights. Wonderful. The Trump administration. Anyway, this is Leo and Dion signing out.